This episode is brought to you by ProMensal. Welcome to Thriving in Menopause, brought to you by Prevention Magazine. I'm Andrea Duval, editor of Prevention. In the first episode of this series, we spoke to author and health coach Amanda Thebe about her own harrowing struggles with perimenopause. Happily, she's not only conquered them, but ever since, she's made it her mission to support other women, and she's written an incredibly useful book called Menopocalypse, which I reckon every woman should read. Welcome back, Amanda. So you've come up with 4 essential hacks that every woman needs to know to thrive during menopause.
Well, it's interesting because, this is a shared experience, but it's so unique to every woman. And so when I wrote the book, I know, from the research, what can help women, but not every one thing will help every one woman. So I needed to give women lots of small chunks of things that they could try to improve their health and just to improve everything through menopause. And I suggest they build a toolkit. And it's a bit cheesy, I know, but essentially what I'm sort of saying is if you know that these things can help you, when you're really struggling or there's something not quite right, reach into that toolkit and find the thing that might help you.
Okay, we'll be right back after this message.
Perimenopause can actually start in your 40s. Declining estrogen production during perimenopause brings on changes to menstrual cycles and often the onset of hot flushes, night sweats, mood swings and sexual problems. Promensal Peri is specifically designed for perimenopausal women and can help relieve these common menopausal symptoms. Promensal Peri is available at leading pharmacies across Australia and offers a cost-effective treatment at under $1 a day. When things start to change, try Promensal Peri. Always read the label and follow the directions for use.
Okay, we're back.
And so the first, I have how to eat, how to exercise, how to manage stress. A lot of times women are fed from the sort of diet culture that exists out there that they need to be starving hungry. They need to restrict all of these different foods. And what I'm trying to say to women is right now, especially in perimenopause and going through to menopause, your body needs nourishing. You need to support your body where it is and you need to eat well. And so you also need to be able to understand what it feels to feel true hunger. And true hunger can show itself in a myriad of symptoms. It isn't just the rumbling tummy. It could be boredom that drives hunger. It could be habit that drives hunger. For example, you walk in the kitchen to put the kettle on. And you're like, oh, that's the time I normally have a couple of Tim Tams. There you go. There's an Australian biscuit that I like. And so, we do a lot of things habitually without any thought. And so what I'm trying to do for women is to bring some mindfulness back into eating, because not a lot needs to change in menopause to support you or to support weight loss if that's what you want. But you do need a bit more attention to what you're doing, because you can't be as relaxed about it as we were in our 20s. And so what I mean by that is understanding true hunger, actually pausing just before you eat and just go, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I bored? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to have a drink of water? Actually identifying what true hunger is. Then learning to slow down the eating process, because we know that the neurotransmitters in our body that kick off once we start eating and then send a message back to the brain to say, you know what, you've had enough to eat now. But when you eat really quickly, you sort of override that process. And so just eating slowly will allow you to feel satisfied. And then the last sort of stage I focus on is understanding what satisfaction feels like. It's probably eating till you're about 80% full, not till your button's going to pop off, and then not left with that dull ache of overeating, which nobody likes, but we often do. And these habits alone, practice, and they do take a long time to sort of become second nature, are actually really good food skills that usually stop people overeating and usually just help people just nourish their body enough, right? And so I actually start anything to do with nutrition talking about those skills. And then I moved then into what nutrition looks like for menopause. And honestly, it's not much different to any other time in our lives, apart from our protein intake needs to increase slightly. And we need to pay more attention to making sure we get lots of macro and micronutrients from our veggies and our fiber. Like, we really need to sort of like make sure we get those in most days. But I also say you can't green smoothie your way out of menopause. It's not that simple. But just actually, do you remember when we used to have the conversation, Andrea, about just eating a balanced meal? It's almost like we can't say that anymore, but that's what I want women to have.
And at Prevention, we always say it's what you put in, it's not what you take out.
And then the last part of that, which is exactly my way of thinking too, is that, and then find room for the fun carbs. You know, like, and I call them fun carbs because I don't want people to have the moralistic standpoint around food. And I know that Prevention feels the same way. You shouldn't be eating this going, oh, this is bad, but I'm going to do this. Or I've been so good and now I'm being so bad because I'm eating this. It's really not helpful for anybody. So I make room for the fun stuff, but it literally doesn't make up the majority of my diet, and neither should it anyone else's, you know?
Yeah, that's such sensible advice, Amanda. So let's talk about fitness, because when we hear advice like, oh, you need to lift weight, you need to be doing high intensity interval training, it can sound really intimidating.
It's really interesting because on my Instagram account, I often post workouts so that I can inspire women. I'm 50 and I want to show women that I'm going to be doing this when I'm 60, 70, 80, right? I know that that's my goal. And often when I lift weights, I get comments like, oh, you're so strong. That's so inspiring. But I can't. It's the same, but I can't. And interestingly, the other day I posted a body weight workout because I'm traveling, and it's got more views than any other video I've ever posted. And women were like, oh, that's great. I'm going to try it. Oh, I've just done that body weight workout and it was brilliant. It was just what I needed. And so I understand that there's a reticence to do strength training for women, but the next logical step from bodyweight training is to introduce some load bearing from an external source, whether that be dumbbells, kettlebells, or barbells, whatever. But the actual idea of using those is horrifying and terrifying for most women. And so in my book, I actually provide a 12-week program because I want to have women have an entry level. Like, I think strength training has an entry level for most women. That's where bodyweight training can be really beneficial, but you soon adapt to those. And so usually you need an extra stimulus, and you need an extra stimulus because as we age and as we go through menopause, our ability to build and maintain any lean muscle that we have starts to go. Sarcopenia, as we know, happens a couple of % every year from the age in our 30s onwards. And we actually need muscle just to be able to get up off the floor.
Absolutely.
The number one reason we go to hospital, right? I mean, old people fall and can't get up.
Yep. And if you grunt whenever you get up off the couch, then you know it's time to start thinking about adding in more exercise.
And you know what's really interesting? When people crack, they call themselves like a glow stick in the morning. They feel their body crack to come to life. Or when they groan to get out of the chair, that tells me you need to move more. It doesn't mean, and most people think, oh my God, I have to start pulling back a bit because my body's sore. And it's like, no, the best thing you can do for your body right now is exercise. And so as well as talking about strength training being so good for aging and just in general to help with some menopausal symptoms, I want women to get out and move every day. I don't see any reason why they can't. And even when I was on the sofa for 4 or 5 hours every day, when I walked to the school to get my kids and come back again, I always felt better, probably because I was with my kids. But just the act of walking, the act of being outside in nature has such a beneficial impact on your mental health. But then it trickles down to all of the other health markers, right? We know how good it is for us. And so if I could get women to move every day, and I'm just on about getting out of the house or even just walking around the house if the weather's so bad, move every day, you will feel better than you did if you didn't do it, right? So movement becomes more important than ever, Andrea.
I could not agree more. And again, it's about reclaiming your confidence in your own vitality.
But even the walking can build your confidence, like you say. It's like literally the easiest, freest, most accessible and uncomplicated way to exercise. So I love that you do that.
Now, that segues nicely into the whole area of mental health, and that's your third pillar in your toolkit, I think.
Yeah. And I sort of combine that with sleep as well. And sleep sort of being the linchpin of our stress management, right? We know that when our sleep goes, everything goes, our cortisol goes up, and it's just a really hard battle. We also know that estrogen is intrinsically linked with our cortisol, and so we're in a different playing ground. And women feel themselves explode all the time, and they don't know why. And a lot of it is because of these changing hormones. And so if you know that this is a potential that this can happen, there are active things you can do to sort of like kick in that parasympathetic nervous system to come back to the present. And so I wish I'd known all of these tools in that 2 years of like wilderness that I was in, because they've been a game changer for me, and they're a game changer for many women. And so first of all, I would sort of start with the sleep. Insomnia is one of the worst symptoms of perimenopause and menopause, and we know it's because estrogen is declining. That helps us have good quality sleep, but progesterone is like a calming hormone. So those two together really can mess with a woman's sleep. And so creating good sleep hygiene, and I won't go through all of the different things right now, but creating good sleep hygiene is imperative. But the problem is when people start cleaning up their act at bedtime, turning off the phones, having a bath, and having like a nice herbal tea or something just to...
This is what we mean by sleep hygiene, is these
sleep
things.
hygiene, yeah. Like setting yourself up for success in the bedroom. And I mean, that includes having sex as well. All of these things can help like promote good sleep. But it can take months and months to change your circadian rhythm, months. And so women will say, well, I tried it for like 2 weeks. I went to bed at 10 o'clock and turned my phone off an hour before. And I'm like, well, you need to do this for the rest of your life, darling, not just for 2 weeks. I mean, this is the whole point of this book. These are habits that you have to maintain, right? And so once we've sort of like looked at how our sleep quality, we need to look at how to calm down in menopause. And there's nothing worse than anyone saying to a menopausal woman, you just need to calm down.
Calm down, yes.
Calm down, but I'm telling you to. And we know that these can happen through multiple ways. Exercise being a great stress reliever, as we know. And I'm on about like the short, hard type exercises when it comes to workouts, but then walking as well. Really focus on like building up some good endorphins, then really focus on resting as well, because your body needs to rejuvenate, and that's all part of the stress response. If you feel like your stress never leaves you, you need to be actively looking at ways to manage that. If we have short bursts of stress that like help us do exciting and scary things, we want to look for that. But if it never leaves and you feel like you're weighed down with the world all the time, ready to explode, mindfulness training can help. CBT can help. Go to a psychologist. Lifestyle things like walking, sleeping, exercise, and even the food you eat can all be part of the stress management puzzle. And then the last thing I would say is like, just don't be afraid to go and get medical help if you literally are trying everything you can do and nothing's improving. It's not a sense of failure to go and say to the doctor, I need hormone therapy. I need something to help me reclaim my life. Like my stress is out the roof, I'm not sleeping. It works for the vast majority of women. And if you're not a candidate for that, there are other things you can try as well. Like even supplements like magnesium and melatonin and things, there's things you can try. So don't despair that it's always going to be like that. And I think I give about 30 or 40 different things you can do to manage your stress. So pick one and just practice it.
Great. Okay, we'll be right back after this message. Okay, we're back. Now, what about the fourth pillar? Self-talk?
Well, I love the title of this book. I called it Shift Happens because which I think was funny, but also because it was one of those extraordinary moments in my journey. I, like you say, have teamed up with experts in this book. I don't just write it myself, right? So I teamed up with a really good friend of mine who is a psychologist. And I said to her one day, we were sat having coffee, and I said, I've lost direction. I don't know what to do with my life. I literally don't know who I am anymore. I don't know if I want to continue down this career path, or I don't know if I want to just pack it all in. I can't decide. And this happens to a lot of women. They sort of start to rethink what they want out of life. And she really helped me when it came to mindfulness. And I actually rolled my eyes a lot when she first started talking about it. But essentially, mindfulness means bringing things back to the present. So rather than hyper-focusing on things that happen in the future, which can bring on anxiety, or worrying about the things that you did wrong in the past, like really just like not letting that go, that can hinder like depression as well. Mindfulness brings you back to the present and allows you to acknowledge those feelings, but just go, but what can I do about it right now? And we even know that practicing techniques of mindfulness can change the shape and the function of the brain. It's been shown on MRI scans. It's actually fascinating. And then the next sort of part of it, as well as like, you know, taking time and just bringing things back to where you are right now. It's like, what do you want to do? How can you make choices about your future if you're confused? And this was the game changer for me. So there are 2 psychological tools that you can use. One is something that identifies your values in life, and another that identifies your strengths. And they're both quizzes you can do online. And essentially what they do is they will give you the information that make you say, okay, so my values are, for example, empathy, kindness, family, career, in that order. Like that's how my mind works. That's how I live my life. And my strengths are curiosity to learn more, to get information and to share that with people. So if I know that they're my strengths and my values, choices become really easy. And career choices become really easy because for me personally, it's like, okay, so I just want to gather information, create a platform for women and share it with them to help them. It suits my strengths and it suits my values. And it actually it opens the doors for you to be able to say no so many more times. No, I don't want to sell your product because it's crap and it doesn't suit my values. And yeah, it might make me some money, but it's actually not what I want to do. It's not authentic to me. It doesn't suit my integrity. And so these psychological tools that you can do can be game changers for women. And when I get women to do them and to sort of focus on them and continually come back to them to say, you know, I've got this opportunity. Should I go for it, or should I turn it down? There's nothing wrong with saying no. And I think as women, we tend to be people pleasers and want to say yes to everything, right? And this is just one of those things that I think after going through the menopause experience and then like focusing in on these strengths and values, I think that life becomes a lot easier.
Indeed. And that sounds like it's where you are now. I mean, you've spoken about how the experience of being on the other side has changed you for the better. And
well, I think it's better. I don't know about anybody else. but yes, I do. I like the person I am now.
Yeah, and I think you've said patience and kindness are 2 of my best friends right now.
Yeah, and I think that can happen in lots of situations in life. You know, like if you're in an environment at work that you don't like, or you're going through a long-term illness or a relationship that you're not sure of. I think that looking at yourself through kind eyes and giving yourself the support that you need, and then just seeing what that looks like, that's where patience and kindness come in. And it just allows you to, like I said, make choices that suit your needs. And it's not an act of selfishness either. It's actually a way to support yourself and, like I say, bulletproof yourself for aging.
Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today. Your advice has been like gold. I really appreciate your generosity.
I'm so happy to, I love the fact that I have all my little Australian friends now. It's great. I know that Prevention did an article for me, and I have this big swarm of Aussies came into my group, and I love it.
Oh, that's
Makes me
wonderful.
so happy. Thank you. Take care. Thanks
Bye.
for having me on the show.
Bye. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to this podcast and also pick up a copy of Prevention magazine, where you'll find much more great advice about thriving at midlife. My name's Andrea Deval. I'm the editor of Prevention. Thanks to our podcast editor today, Josh Lundberg, and I'll see you next time.